What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a little crayfish chatterbait today. So on one of the lakes I primarily fish, there's tons of these tiny little crayfish, and I had this is a Z-Man evolution chatterbait or something like that. It's one of the Z-Man chatterbaits. It says the original chatterbait on it. Maybe it is. It definitely looks a little bit different. It's got eyes and stuff on it, but just kind of a classic chatterbait. Z-Man just makes the best chatterbaits, so that's really the only ones I buy. But this brown just reminded me of a crayfish, and really with this little flapper, the blade part of the jig, it looks, with something like this, it reminds me of one of the little flappers on a crayfish. So I'm going to attempt just my own little crayfish today, and it's going to be a little bit different than anything I've really tied before. We'll see how it ends up looking. I've kind of been messing around with this a little bit. It's going to be bucktail. I'm going to do 2 little claws of bucktail, and then I'm going to do a bucktail body, but I'm just going to do the hair. I'm not going to necessarily flare it. I'm just going to have the hair be the body, and I'm going to wrap it off here. And then I'm going to have just a little bit of copper flash in there. The first thing I'm going to do is, this is hairline fettuccine foam. It's just obviously foam cut really, really thin. I bought a couple bags of these. I really like it because I never really used foam just because I just didn't want to take the time to cut it. And now I really don't have to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to build up a little bit of a foam body or bump right down here to help separate separate the claws that I'm going to do. I'll just kind of dress this all up. That blade's making some noise, but you can just ignore that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a little bit of super glue ready because I'm going to end up kind of making sure this stays put where I want it. You kind of have to be careful with this fettuccine stuff because I wrap down pretty hard, and so that first wrap, it can be pretty loose or pretty weak on you. So I'm just going to wrap this, and this is just for separation of my materials. I really don't care if this makes it sink slower or not. I think this is a 3/8 ounce, so it's plenty heavy. I'm just putting this down. Again, when I put that hair down, I want those claws to separate. And I'm going to put down just a little bit of super glue. Come on. Just to make sure that this is going to stay where I want it to. Because I'm going to have quite a big bump here. And then I'll just come one more wrap, kind of pull down, let that stick, and then I'll tie it off right here. I've put these in on a couple streamers that I've been tying, and I really like them too. Those are to help. Maybe I'll do a video. I don't think I did a video on those. I'll just pull that off, and I can just discard the stuff I don't use. So I'm going to put down, again, this is just an experiment, a thought experiment that I've had, and I thought I'd share my trials and errors with you. So I've got just a little stack. I've got 2 brown bucktails. One, I think this is rust, and then this is just a brown tail. They're not super high quality. Actually, I didn't want to use any of my really good stuff. This stuff is a little bit softer. I'm going to just put one on each side of this foam, and really, I just don't want it too long. Crayfish aren't massively long. I mean, there's some big ones out there, but really, I just want it, I'll kind of even these out. I just want it far enough past my hook is really the biggest thing. So I'll come in here, cord up my thread. I'm going to put it right by my foam, and I'm just going to wrap that right on that side, and I want to keep it together. I'm not worried about flare or anything. I just want it to kind of kick out to the side just like that, and I'll just wrap that down, and I'll grab my other one, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. The stacks are super similar. I think I even weighed them out. I think it was like just under 0.1 grams, so really not a lot at all, because I don't want these, I mean, it's going to stand out either way, but I just want them, trim this, even these out. I don't want them too long. I really don't want them too long. So then I'll come over here. I'm going to have a really big thread bump here, but that's all right. I'll push this right on the side. Get those. I don't want them sticking to glue. I don't want them moving anywhere. I just want them right on the side. So I'll try my best to keep these separate. And I can be picky about evening these out, the thread and stuff, that thread body, but you can see these are just going to be two little kind of claws, and when these get wet they're going to stick together. And so I just, not the two claws, but all that hair is going to stick together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my flash down now. So for my flash, I've got some Flashabou, just this extra limp, kind of the original Flashabou, just extra limp. I've got probably 6 or 7 copper pieces here, and I'm just going to bring them about as long as my claws, and I'll just kind of get them down. This is just going to be a little bit of flash in those claws, and I could just kind of wrap that around, but I want them to be similar lengths. I don't want to have to trim them, so I'm just going to trim that off, and I'll come over to this one, and again, I don't want these to be longer than my claws, and I'm not really worried about spreading them out or anything. I'll just put them down. This limp Flashabou just dances in the water, so I don't really need to worry about evening them out. So now I've got a nice little thread bump here, and I could put some glue and stuff like that down. I'm just going to make sure that this is all where I want it to be. Then I'm going to come right up here, and I'm going to get my next one. So now my next stack, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a second bobbin. This is just red 210, and I'm going to put it right by my head. I'll get this dressed, and what I'm going to do is I'll just kind of half hitch. I just wanted to get that dressed just so I wasn't going to wrap on bare stuff, because I don't want this to get in my way. I'll just keep that close by, but I'll grab my rust, and I just want to come about, not even, I don't know, maybe halfway up, and I'm going to wrap that down right by my claws, and I just don't want this to fall down. I want this black thread line right there. And I'm just going to kind of spin this around, get a little comb, kind of comb that out, and I'll spin that around as best I can. I'll lose a couple hairs, maybe more than a couple, while I'm spinning this, because you can see how much is on my right side, but I tried my best to even them out as much as I could. And I'll just make sure, almost like you're reverse tying, I'll just make sure that this is about how I want it to be. It doesn't have to be super perfect. And I'm just going to kind of pinch that down, and I'm just going to tighten this up. And this is going to be my first little body right here. But this is where I want to make sure the wraps are good. So now what I'm going to do I'm going to kind of let that sit, and I'm going to take my red thread, and I can almost even grab a little clip and kind of push these together. Make it a little bit easier for me. I'm going to go right by my head. I'm going to find where my head is. And I'm just going to wrap this down kind of lightly. And then I can kind of spin these back and get them where I want. It's not 100% perfect, but that I'm going to end up trimming off a lot of that anyway. And I'm going to tie this down with some really tight wraps, because this is what my body's going to be. And I'll just, again, I might have a little bit more time to even those out. I'll trim off this thread with my scissors. And then I can take this off, and it should kind of stay where I want it. And that'll be my little body, but I'm going to end up doing a couple wraps on there to help build that body up. I'd get a couple of those wraps. I don't know if I'll be able to half hitch. Just get a half hitch in there. You're watching me do something for the first time. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but we're learning together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim these hairs. I might leave just a little bit kind of on the top, just because. So I'm going to kind of just push against my head and just trim around. Try and even that out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to half hitch here. Got a couple stragglers. I'll half hitch here, and I'm going to build a little bit of a body. And I'm going to end up putting down, I can put down some head cement on each of these at the end, just to make sure that they're not going to go anywhere. Although even a couple half hitches usually does the trick. I'll put another one, maybe I'll cord up my thread just in my hand, make sure that it's corded up, and I have a nice little bird's nest on my bench now. Do a couple wraps here, then I'll trim this off. Then I'll half hitch this, and I'll just squeeze one more in there right before my red. Again, I'm going to put head cement down on all this anyway. I'll do one more right there, right there. Build that body up a little bit, these body segments, I guess. Couple tight wraps. Then I can half hitch here. Then I'll put my head cement down. And these are just really supposed to be kind of the body of the crayfish. I know some of you have already probably thought the eyes are on the wrong side because that's where the flipper is. Well, it is what it is. Those eyes where they are where they are, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I'll just grab my little head cement. I'm just going to put it on each of these. So head cement's down. I just got to let that dry. I kind of wish I would have added a little bit more hair to this, but I was afraid that the more hair I added, the harder it was going to be. It was hard enough. I mean, you can tell that those wraps aren't perfectly separate, but you know, it is what it is. If I tie a few more of these, maybe I'll kind of get it down, but I only had one of these chatterbaits, so I really only had one chance to kind of show you what I was thinking. But a little bit of a crayfish chatterbait, 3.5, 4 inches, nice little claws there, little flash. It's smallmouth season. Put this by some rocks, some sunken logs or something like that. Pop it off the bottom. I think it's going to be a killer. Junior's Fishing Company. like and subscribe. Drop some comments below, stuff you want to see, how your fishing season's been. We'll see you on the next one.